I remember back in 2005, I just walked into Rio and just noticed something immensely different about Chris. And it was like, his body posture was unreal. I mean, perfect, stick, like this. And I'm thinking, what's up with this? He's got a mountain of chips and everything like that. So he started to explain to me the theory behind body talk.
Throughout the ages, the way we've verbally interacted has changed over and over. That's true. But what about that other language we've been using since the very beginning? What about that other language we use every day in every situation we encounter? The language that doesn't speak because it speaks volumes without saying a word. That's right, body language. Or as I've trademarked it, body talk.
Happy. This is fairly obvious. Look at me. I'm happy. Happiness during a hand will 99% of the time indicate that your opponent has a strong hand. The other 1%, he will be mentally ill. Unhappy. This is obvious too. Look at me. I'm unhappy. Most of the time, when an opponent looks unhappy, he will have a poor hand. It sounds simple, right? Well, it is. Don't overcomplicate a straightforward game with mathematical bullshit and discussing different lines with your geeky friends. Young professional poker player. This is a particularly dubious one and difficult to read. Why PPPs tend to have been exposed to large amounts of money, international travel, and 5-star hotels. As a result of this, most of them look utterly unimpressed by everyday life, including yet another hand of stupid poker. 50% of the time, be prepared to be wrong about your reads here.
So, Joe.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about how you and I met each other, how our paths crossed.
Well, I mean, you remember that amazing night,
Of course.
right, in Paris. I'd spent all day walking around the Louvre, so exhausted, but then I found out, of course, that Bon Jovi was playing. I mean, one of the best American bands you could possibly imagine. And what do? You know, I run into somebody there, you, obviously. You had a hell of a night yourself, right? You had a song dedicated to yourself.
Coincidence?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, obviously it was sort of a magical night for me. I'd been so upset about everything. I mean, poker had been absolutely garbage for years, you know, just completely getting to the point where I almost didn't even want to play. You know, if I remember correctly, I had the McDonald's resume in my pocket that I was talking to you about. Hey, I think I'm going to go for a job there.
It's known as your dark day.
It was definitely my dark day. But, you know, you kind of bolstered me up a little bit. We had a couple conversations, and, you know, what can you say? The rest is history after that.
He dedicated Dead or Alive, which is, well, an incredible feeling. And I could see you were ravaged by jealousy, but you came over.
Well, I had to, because that song for me is about me, right? Because at that point I felt like I was dead. You know, I was trying to figure out a way to get through it, to try to, you know, change my life around.
And you have been dead at one point as well, I heard.
Exactly. Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Jet skiing accident.
Ugh. They don't tell you when you go out, you know, on Lake Michigan how rough it gets. They don't tell you that you need to keep it at a certain RPM and don't go so fast. So, of course, I was out there, jet skiing, you know, JC Tran, as he always used to do in my poker career, gets in my way. Completely clips me. I go flying into the water, half my face, frozen, nerve damage, you know, which if you remember, when I saw you that night, I was still suffering some of the effects from that. So it was tough. It was very, very tough to overcome at that point in my life.
But we met that evening. We listened to all of the classics.
Incredible stuff.
We talked. And I'd noticed, of course, as maybe a repercussion of the accident, Lake Michigan, JC Tran, there was something wrong with your physiology. Your spine looked like it had been split into 9 pieces. I mean, tell us a little bit about, I mean, you were only about 3'4" tall.
It was unbelievable. I was known as the, you know, the American Smurf. I don't know if it was the medicine or if it was us sitting down that night that sort of, you know, spurred me on to, you know, getting the confidence that was required. But now I'm able to wave at people. You know, even my poker game, when I move in, I don't have to move in with my shoulder. You know, I just move my chips in with my hands. I mean, you can't, that kind of confidence you can't buy.
And the lessons themselves. We don't want to divulge exactly right now. But if you could give a little insight without giving the game away, tell everybody at home what is in store for people
Well, I think there's so much, obviously you have so many lessons, different lessons. Mine was all about confidence, how you carry yourself, how you walk, how you move at the poker table. Of course, I had my own physical limitations that just our conversations were able to help me overcome personally. But for an average person with no nerve damage at all, nothing wrong with them whatsoever, the things you're going to be able to do for them is going to be magical. I mean, beyond magical. It's going to be a completely different world. And if you do have nerve damage out there, there's hope for you as well, because I've been helped.
What are we going to do about JC Tran?
Well, I don't know that we want to talk about that here. There's legal ramifications, and there's things we could get in trouble with. But there's a little surprise maybe waiting for him. Maybe at the World Series next year, we'll see.
JC needs some work done. He needs to work on his life. JC, if you're watching, Chris Olaafson will teach you how you can stop being who you are. Joe, what a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful conversation. Maybe we can see each other at John Bond, maybe Whitesnake.
Please, anywhere. You just tell me where.
Poker-related instinctual card knowledge, or prick. Here's something incredible. Every poker player will divulge his exact holding unconsciously. That's as long as you know what the signs are. In this section, your instincts will be tested as well as your card reading ability, and you may be surprised in the outcome. Having a prick is completely natural and cannot be taught. If you don't have one now, I'm afraid you'll never have one. So let's get going. See if you can guess what I've got in my hole. That's right, Ace 10. Well spotted, my friend. You've got good eyeballs. Pocket threes, you got it. Otherwise known as the crabs. I bet you're glad that I've got the crabs and not you. Bingo. 6 and 9, 69. Hey, you're the one that thought it first with your filthy mind.